Hi, I'm not famous, but I know someone who is, and he's changed my life. Now, when I was young, I was in this constant routine, and it was one time a week, every Sunday morning, I would go to church. Now, my parents were really, really big on this, and I guess it rubbed me the wrong way or something when I was younger. I never quite know why. It's not their fault at all, but it just bored me to death. For some reason, I couldn't stand it, didn't really like it, yet I would consider myself a Christian. But things were really empty inside of me for the first 14 years of my life, really. And it took me quite a while to really understand what my parents had been telling me my entire life. So, for example, for the longest time, I wasn't really a nice guy. Now, maybe people noticed that, maybe people didn't, but I would think mean thoughts about people, I would judge people, I wouldn't really love anyone, and I was very prideful. I thought the whole earth revolved around me. That was probably very noticeable. I would even get in fights. And that wasn't good for me at all, and my life was really struggling with that. Something else that was going wrong with me was insomnia, which is this condition where you don't sleep at night, or you have issues sleeping at night. And because of that, I would go nights in and nights out without even sleeping at all, and it was terrible for me, because it made the days harder, long nights never turn out well. Because of all these things going on, I mean, a good example of where I was at in my life was that in 8th grade, I'll never forget this day. I showed up to class, and I had gone 2 consecutive nights without getting any sleep at all, which even for insomnia is pretty rare. And it was just so awful. A kid said something to me. I'm not really even sure what it was, and I think more importantly, I'm not really sure that it matters. But I flipped out on him, and I screamed at him, and I shouted, and that was just a good example of how my life was falling apart at the seams, and I hadn't even understood it. So then freshman year rolls around for me, and life comes in, life goes out, things happen. And I was really busy, and because of that, I thought that I was even cooler than everybody else because I was doing a lot, and that meant that I was involved and awesome. But what I really didn't understand was what I was supposed to be doing with life. But I went to this retreat in the middle of the year. It was in winter, in January. It was called Fast Break. It is part of Student Venture, now called Crew. And at first when I was going to the retreat, I was like, yeah, whatever, another retreat. Like I said, my parents are kind of like missionaries, essentially, so I've been going to these retreats all my life, and I figured it wouldn't mean anything to me. But when I went there, the speaker was great. He was like an older version of me, so I really was able to connect with him. And he said something about love, and about Christ's love that I hadn't quite understood before. And he told the story about how Christ died, and how he rose again for me, and he did all this because he loved me. And love finally started to make an impact in my life, and I started to finally understand what it was. And I believe it's at that moment when I truly became a Christian, because I truly understood what it was. Now, something else happened in my life that same night, which was amazing. I felt something going on inside of me, and I wasn't really sure what it was at the time, but for some reason, I felt like my insomnia was gone, and it was a miracle. There's this great line in Lost where these two people are talking, and one of them talks about how, like, when there's a disease inside of you, you will recognize it and you will love it when it's gone. And essentially, that's what happened to me. My insomnia felt like it was finally gone, and I went to bed that night, and I had my first full long night of sleep in a very long time. And twice as a pattern, next night, same thing. The day after, same thing. So that was a miracle that happened in my life. And Christ ransomed me, essentially. He saved me from all of the junk that was going on in my life. And I finally began to experience love. And it was such a wonderful thing. So, like I said before, I'm not famous, but I know someone who is, and he changed my life.